Welcome to a walkthrough of Aztec. We're going to play from the 5th tee, and it's a tricky course. Initially, when you first play, you can be aiming around about here. As you get more stats, you'll be able to draw it into this area here. I've actually now got enough power to go right up and drive the green, so that's what I'll be attempting to do. Got a bit of a helping wind right to left. If we aim any further to the left from where I'm aiming here, we're going to end up clipping the tree. Where I am here is about right. You see that tree there? If I aim any further to the left than here, it's going to hit the tree. So that's round about where I want to be. I'm going to come back in a little bit, and I'm going to try and hit this just under 100%. Take a few tries at it. I think 98 would have done actually. If I hit 98 again, I'll take that. Okay, that'll do. Not a bad contact. And that should come round the tree. And could have been a little bit harder maybe, but that's not bad. The green isn't too bad, so yeah, that's not bad at all. It's going to dive off to the left a little bit initially and then slowly drift back in from the right. I could probably hit this straight. Let's see what the guide says. Yeah, that agrees with me. So essentially I can just hit that straight. Normally when I hit it bang on the line, it's not so important here. The break isn't such that if I hit it a bit short or a bit past, it's going to affect the trajectory of the ball. That should do it. And in it drops. So that always gets you off to a good start. You're usually up against people who can't get onto the green, so if you can get an eagle on the first hole, that's a good start. So hole 2 is a par 5. When you first start out, you'll be aiming for this area of green here. You might not even have the stats to get there. If you haven't, then you're going to be aiming short of the bunkers here, and it's a really tricky shot. It's going to be a real par 5. As you get better, or as you get more stats, you can start to reach this area here, which gives you a shot into the green. I've got more stats again, and I can actually get onto the fairway with a power shot past this tree. With tees and distance balls, I could make it a bit more comfortable, but I'm basically going to give it a good whack. Should just miss that tree. We'll be round about 200 yards from the pin, which will be just within backspin distance, all being well. And if you've not got a backspin shot, it makes the second shot much harder. So I'm going to take a backspin shot. Now, as we can see, the lie there, it's going to want to kick off to the right 3 yards. It's actually a 200 yard shot, so you would tend to do 3 yards plus another 3 because it's 200 yards. If it was 300 yards, you'd move it 9 to the left to counteract that. So if we don't do anything, essentially what it's going to do is move over here, and it's going to end up off the green on the right hand side. So we need to offset that by moving the cursor over to the left, which we'll do now. There's a little bit of a wind, not much to speak of. I'm not worried about it going a little bit to the right of the pin, which will leave me an uphill putt. I don't want to be putting downhill if I can avoid it. As we've seen before, it can be a tricky shot. With a putting guide, especially putting downhill. So it's just getting the distance now. A backspin shot tends to fly about 5 or 6 yards past the pin. It is a little bit uphill, there's a little bit of a headwind, so I'm going to come back maybe a little bit more than that. There we go. I would say that'll probably do it. A bit more. These last minute adjustments normally you normally end up right first time. Let's see what it does. So I'm going to want to hit it. Try and get it as close to the line as possible. It's worth taking the time to get it right. This time I think. There we go. That'll do. You obviously don't want to take too much time if you're in a World Cup or World Championship game, because you only get 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes a hole, something like that. But that's left as a decent putt. There's a bit of a left to right break on it. It's not much to speak of, and because it's 3.3 feet uphill, I'm going to hit it a bit harder, which will take a bit of that break out again. So all I really need to do here is to hit it firmly, and it'll maybe drift off slightly to the right, but it'll drop nicely in the hole as long as I get the distance right. So That will do nicely. Okay, so 2 holes, 2 eagles. That's a good start. And on to hole 3. Now hole 3, it's a par 3. There's 2 distinct shots. There's actually 2 different greens where the pin might be. Currently it's on the back green. There's also this green down here. For the back green, we're going to play a high shot and try and clip the fairway just to roll down the hill, because they're both downhill greens, so they're quite difficult to hold, especially that back one. This front one, I think we'll actually play this hole twice, so what I'll do is reposition the pin and we'll play the shot down there shortly. So for now, I'm going to play a high shot. I want it to be hitting this bit of fairway here, and it'll just bounce up and then roll down towards the pin. If I get it wrong, it's going to end up the back of the green. If I hit it too short, it's going to end up sitting. It might even bounce back, and I've seen it roll down onto that lower green before, which isn't much fun. So if I hit it round about here with a high shot, then we should find it'll just clip that front bit of fairway, which will take the pace off it, and hopefully it'll roll down towards the pin. I've had a hole in one here before. This won't be far away. I think I've gone off to the left a little bit, but not particularly worried. We're going for a birdie. Just need to get the distance right. Okay, that shouldn't be too bad. I'm hoping for it just to hit the fairway, which it has, and that's rolled on nicely. So 4.3 feet. It's a little bit downhill, which can be tricky. It's a good example of this actually. If I was to go with a putting guide, it would probably tell me to hit a lot softer than I would want to, and it would end up kicking off to the left. It makes a much smaller margin for error if you use a putting guide for downhill putts, and if you can avoid it, I always tend to do without. So ordinarily I would just knock this down the hill. As we can see, let's choose the putting guide, and if I hit it straight at the pace it suggests, it's going to kick off to the left. What I'm going to do actually is adjust a little bit for the break, but I'm going to hit it much harder than the guide suggests. That's going to take the break out of it, and in it drops. So again, putting guides really useful, but you want to be careful, especially with downhill putts, because it can make it a lot harder than it would be without, depending on the putt. Right, so we're now going to basically restart it. I'm going to restart it with the pin position on the lower green. So it's the same hole, but a completely different shot. So rather than playing a high shot, clipping the fairway and have it roll on, I'm actually going to play a backspin shot. A backspin shot is going to fly out of 5 or 6, maybe even 7 yards past the pin. Our elevation is actually, it's around about, we'd want to go about 5, 6, 7 yards past it anyway. So I think, to be honest, the best thing to do is just for me to basically drop it on the hole here. So the backspin is going to want to go past, the elevation's going to counteract that, and hopefully if I'm pretty much on the hole, this isn't going to be far away. The only other factor we've got to worry about is going to be, is it going to go to the left, is it going to go to the right? The wind's dead in my face, so if I get a good impact, this shouldn't be far away at all. I think that should do it. So when you're playing in the World Championship, you'll be shots like this. If you're worried about getting a perfect impact, you could use a perfect zone drink. I don't have a lot of them. I'm not going to waste them on a practice round, even if I had them. So just have to try and get a decent impact. It's important to get the distance right, so I want to get it bang on that line if I can. and that was almost a perfect shot anyway. So the backspin should kick in, and that's a yard from the hole. That's a tap in. Just give it a bit of a crack. With a short putter you can hit it much harder than that and it'll still go in. The short putter you can't really hit it too hard. I suppose it is possible, but anyway. Right, hole 4 can be a killer. Before you've got the stats to do so, you'll be going over here, when I say to do so, to go for the green, and then playing a shot into the green from the fairway on the left. I've actually got enough stats now to play a shot through the window. Now the green slopes quite heavily from back to front. You'll see the red indicates a tyre at the back, and it's a good 2 feet lower at the front, so anything that goes through the window is going to stop quite quickly, so you don't have to worry too much about it running off the back of the green. So this window here is what I'm going to aim for. Now it's a bit easy as it is, so I'm going to actually give it a bit of a crosswind, which is more like you'll see in real life. You occasionally get an easy wind, but more often than not you'll get a bit of a crosswind here. So 3 yards a second makes it more difficult. I'm going to want to clip the front of the rough, and it's hopefully going to roll on towards the pin here. So to deal with that wind, I'm going to basically kick it off to the right. From previous experience, I would like it to land about there. So to get it to land there, I'm going to need to move my cursor round about. I usually go for 3 yards, kind of about 1 window to the right and then a little bit more. I don't want to take a 3-wood, which I had selected before with a power shot, because it's going to be affected more by the wind. So I much prefer a driver here, and round about here should do it. So that should go through the window. What I'm hoping for again is for it to go through the window. It's going to catch the rough to take the pace off it, and it's going to run towards the hole. All being well, the green there is pretty flat, so it's not going to kick off any, so it should end up pretty close. Again, I want to catch the power, which is pretty tricky with this software running. That's not bad, not the best contact, but it could have been worse. So it'll go through the window. That's going to be pretty close, and you can't get closer than that. I think that's the first hole-in-one I've ever got on this hole, so it's a good one to get, and it's a good one to get on video. I'd love to do that in a game that mattered, but I'll take it. Okay, so on to hole number 5. This is again a potential killer, this one. You want to get it between these 2 bunkers. If you've got the stats to do so, you can play other shots, but I'm going to basically drive it between those 2 bunkers. I know I can hit it full blast and it'll not get too close to that wall, but you need to be careful. If you've got a bit more power, you don't hit it too hard and end up right up against that wall, because that can get you into trouble. I've got through there nicely. And I'm going to play a high shot at the pin. It's 49 yards above us. The calculation is 3 for every 3 feet up you would put it 1 yard past. So you basically take the number and divide it by 3. 49 divided by 3 is going to give us what, about 16, a little bit more than 16 thereabouts. We'll basically take the cursor forward 16, and then we're going to bring it back. So 16 gets us around here. There's a little bit of a headwind, which will take a bit more off it. So we'll come back around about 5 or 6, just to account for the roll of the ball. So somewhere around about here. The green slopes left to right, so it's going to probably finish up right at the pin, which is what I want, because it gives me again an uphill putt. I much prefer uphill putts to downhill ones. Could have done with it being a bit closer, but it shouldn't be too bad. The green's not too bad here, so I have got that uphill putt I wanted. Bit of a right to left swing, but not a lot, because I'm hitting it quite hard. It should drop in nicely, and there we go. Okay, So hole 6, once you've got the power, actually becomes pretty straightforward. It can be quite tricky due to the green. The green slopes again away from you, so it's very difficult if you haven't got either a backspin shot or a flop shot to hold the green. So I can reach this with a power shot. So round about there will do nicely. Again, going back around about here is an option to backspin it in if you haven't got enough power to get past this bunker and into the area you can flop from. So we're going to hit it. I haven't got the best of contacts there, but that might be a bit close to that bunker. Should be okay. Yeah, we're all right. And we're within flop distance, 63 yards. Anything up to about 88, 90 yards you can flop in from. It's a little bit uphill. There's 16 feet above us, which would be about 5 yards past. So as you can see, the green, we've got a little green area there, but this blue area is all sloping downhill. So you don't want to go past the green area. If you hit it a bit too hard, you can end up right off the green at the back. So we want the ball to end up round about here to give us a nice easy put into the hole. So I'm going to go round about 5 yards past. You can see the elevation on the right hand side. It's slightly uphill, so it's going to fly a bit higher and stop a bit quicker. So I think if I basically go about 5 yards past the hole, it shouldn't end up far away. It is a hole that's I've eagled a few times, this one with chips in, because it's quite a straightforward shot. The pin can be in some horrible places, but this isn't too bad. That shouldn't be too. Look at that. Yeah, nearly. I thought that might have been another spectacular shot, but that's good enough. Gives us a tap in birdie, and in she goes. So we'll now move on to hole 7. Hole 7 is particularly interesting. There's two ways you can approach it. There's an easy birdie, and there's a risky eagle. Depending on where you are, you might want to go for the safe birdie. If you're in a World Championship game and you're chasing, you can go for the eagle, risk everything, end up in the water, or go for glory and get it. But we're going to play the basic one first. I'll play it again shortly with play the risky shot next, but we'll show you the straightforward one first. You'd probably work this one out yourself. Simple fade around the tree onto the fairway, leave as a flop. We should be able to put this pretty close. The elevation down below us is 60 feet. The calculation is slightly different. What we do is divide that by 3.75 rather than 3 when it's a lower elevation. So that's going to be around about 16 feet back. So I move back 16 feet, that gets me here. I'm going to go forward a little bit because of it's going to pitch on a bit of a hill and stop quite suddenly. And it's going to roll a bit right. You can see there's a hill in the middle of the green. So that shouldn't be too bad. And I'm wanting it to pitch and maybe roll slightly off to the right. That's exactly what it did, maybe a little bit too hard. Again, though, it gives me a fairly simple tap in for my birdie. So that's the safe way to approach the hole. Comfortable birdie. So the other way to approach it, which we'll now do, is to try and basically fade it around the tree in the same way with a lot more power. We want to bounce it on the first bit of rough and then land it on the next bit of rough, which will take all the pace off it and then should roll nicely into the middle of the green somewhere. So I tend to aim it round about here. We're fading it again to get it around that tree, and I probably want to hit this around about 95%. It's a bit hard. That should do it actually. Didn't get the best of contacts, but it's okay. So we want it to bounce on this first bit of rough, bounce on the second bit of rough, which it has, and not bad at all. So we've got a fairly comfortable putt. Again, it's a downhill one though. I'm going to use a guide because I want to try and put the eagle in. It's going to kick off to the right. I always get these wrong. The break is a lot more. Now I'll tend to think that's far too much. It'll end up being more than I think. Let's see what it does this time. Or shall I do it a bit more? Should have done it a bit more. But It's giving us the indication. We know if we move it that distance and catch it on the line, it's going to go in. I've actually got it on the line, so there's a good chance this time.
And there's our eagle.
And there's the eagle. So there's the two ways to approach the hole: safe birdie or risky eagle.
So 2 ways to do that hole. The spectacular one is the last one. Most of the time you'd be happy with a birdie there. If required.
Okay, so we'll move on to hole number 8. Now, hole 8 is, again, it could be quite a tricky one, and there could be a few different ways we can approach it. We can go for this area here. For power shot, I can just about make it with a nice bounce onto that bit of fairway there, which is probably my best option. From a shorter tee with a bit more power, I can go for the area over there. I'll show you that in a sec. This area here is going to slope off to the left, so that can be a tricky shot to get out of. So I want to try and avoid that. That can be an option if you haven't got the power to go for space number 1. Going over here is an option if you've got, if I had the 10-yard tees and distance balls, I might just make that with a headwind, but probably not. From the third tee, it's easy. And the last option, if you haven't got the option to, haven't got the power to get to any other areas, is leave it round about here and going through the pillars, which if you get that wrong, you can end up in a bit of trouble. That's the only option until you've got the power to get round about here. So I'm going to go round about here. There's a little bit of a left to right wind. I want it just to catch the rough, take the pace off it, and it'll kick off to the right a little bit. Let's see. So I want it to bounce on the rough, all being well, and it just has, and that's done pretty much what I thought it would, which will leave a slightly uphill lie. This next shot is another tricky one. Based on the calculations, you'd think I go right over here, 10 yards past, but just the angle of it tends to roll on a lot, this shot, so I'm going to come back quite a way. Hopefully this will be about what I want. So I've only actually gone 4 yards past it, but I think it'll roll on quite a lot. If I watch when it lands, let's just see if I can get this shot right first. Okay, so I'm expecting this to land at the front of the green and roll on towards the back, which it's actually gone a little bit further. I could have done with dropping that off even a little bit more, but not far away, and it should be a fairly comfortable birdie. There we go, which just leaves us with the par 3 hole 9. Now this one again can be, it's the last hole, and you often see rounds won or lost here. Any miscalculation in distance and you can be either short or long of the green and right up against this wall here, leaving you with an impossible shot into the green. You can often lose 2-3 shots thinking that you're far enough away to be over that little wall, and it'll clip the wall and go back in the sand again, back where you started. So it's 18 feet past, which would be 6 yards round about here. I'm going to come back a little bit because he's going to roll on. I don't want to come back too much, so I always tend to end up a little bit past the pin, but you're better off a little bit past the pin than in the sand at the front. Just don't want to, distance is quite important, so I'll take my time. It's okay. Finish with a perfect shot, that's always good. And as we can see, it wasn't too far from the front of the green. There's a little bit of room to play with, but I didn't want to take the risk of coming back a couple of yards just to end up in the sand there. And this is fairly straightforward, a bit of a right to left. As long as I hit it hard enough, it'll take that break out of it a little bit and drop nicely, which it has done. So there you have it. That is Aztec from the 5th tee. Little bit of jiggery pokery. I didn't get all those shots spot on first time. I can usually average around about -10, -11. I think that was probably with a hole in one, maybe even -15, which I've never got anywhere near. I think -13 is my record on this course. Thanks for watching, and we shall. I'll do some more walkthroughs. If you've got any requests, please feel free to use the comments, and we'll see you soon. Bye.